The actress says Landon wrote Little House, The Last Farewell, which aired 41 years ago today, because he was so angry that NBC never called him to tell him the show was officially cancelled. More than half a century after its premiere on NBC, Little House on the Prairie is having yet another moment. In January, Nielsen announced that LHOP was the most streamed classic series on 2024, with over 13 billion minutes viewed on Peacock. And last week, Netflix revealed that it has ordered the long-awaited Little House reboot, which has been in the works since 2020, to series. Today marks another milestone in Little House's pop culture journey. On February 6, 1984, NBC aired Little House, The Last Farewell, a TV movie that served as the series finale. When a tycoon shows up and announces that he owns all the land in Walnut Grove, the residents refuse to leave without a fight. After strapping TNT to every beloved building in the town, the townsfolk detonate the explosives as the Ingalls family, Laura, Melissa Gilbert, Caroline, Karen Grassel, and Charles, Michael Landon, and all their neighbors watch from the sidelines. For me personally, that whole experience from reading the script until the last day was the longest funeral I'd ever attended, Gilbert tells Entertainment Weekly. It was so heartbreaking. The actress, who is currently starring in the off-Broadway play Still, and is the co-founder of the modern Prairie lifestyle brand, made time to chat with EW about her memories from The Last Farewell, including why Landon decided to blow up all those sets in the first place. Nielsen recently gave Little House on the Prairie the Legacy Award for being the most streamed classic series in 2024. What was your reaction when you heard that? Melissa Gilbert, it was not surprising, and yet at the same time, it was such a thrill. I've been hearing more and more and more just on the street, oh my god, I just watched an episode of Little House. And I see it on social media. I think it's probably got something to do with the 50th anniversary last year, and the viewing seemed to be on the rise since COVID. It for sure helped a lot of people at that time. I think people rediscovered that we were talking about such important issues, and issues that are still unresolved today. I think Little House on the Prairie is a really nice antidote for what our country is currently experiencing, this vitriol and bitterness. It's a reminder that we can get back to being civil again somehow. If we did that then, we can do it again. 41 years ago today, NBC aired Little House, The Last Farewell, in which the people of Walnut Grove take drastic measures to keep a tycoon from taking possession of their town. How did you first learn that Michael Landon planned to end the movie by blowing up Walnut Grove? I knew that he wanted to demolish everything because he was so angry that NBC never called him to tell him the show was officially cancelled. We just weren't on the fall schedule after not just 10 years of Little House, but years of Bonanza. It was just such a disrespectful thing to do to him. I do remember reading the script and going, oh ho 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 ho, okay. Wow. For me personally, that whole experience from reading the script until the last day was the longest funeral I'd ever attended. It was so heartbreaking. Every day it was somebody else's last day. Every day we had to say goodbye to someone else. And then when they blew it all up and we gathered that final day, it was just devastating and horribly, horribly sad. In Prairie Tale, a memoir, you wrote that Michael Landon had wanted to blow it up in part as a FU to the network. What did he say to you at the time about his motivations? One of the things we talked about was his desire to not have anyone else use our sets, like to have some porn out there shooting, on old Little House sets. Those were ours. We built them. I mean, I had so many major life experiences in and around all of those buildings, as did everyone on the cast and crew. That place was sacred to us in a big way. In the movie, Laura has this amazing scene where she yells, "I'm just so angry. Manly, I'm really angry." And she starts smashing plates and breaking the windows with a broom. What do you remember about shooting that scene? Listen, as an actor, any opportunity one have to break things on camera is a joy. For me, acting is one gigantic therapy session. Anything that's in me gets a chance to come out in whatever scene or play or movie I'm doing at the time. And that was an opportunity to vent a lot of adolescent angsty stuff that was going on in my own personal life, as well as the angry part of my grief and that process of saying goodbye to all of those beloved people I'd worked with for such a huge part of my life. The cast wasn't on set for the actual explosions, so when you arrived on set for the final day, the town was already destroyed. What was it like, walking on set with your colleagues and seeing Walnut Grove reduced to a pile of rubble? Gutting. It was just painful. Knowing that we were going to walk down from base camp, that it was not going to be there, but not knowing exactly what we were going to see, I imagine it's not nearly, and I'm going to underline nearly 8 times, what it's like when people go home after a natural disaster, as we've seen in Los Angeles and Wilmington and so many other places. To see these buildings, they were not just facades, they were buildings, where we'd gone to school, where we'd communed, where we gathered and spent such an intense 10 years of all of our lives just flattened. I can understand on a very, very tiny scale what it feels like to lose your home to something like that. Those scenes where the men are detonating the explosives and people are crying, were those real tears? Absolutely. And the thing was is we'd all be okay for a few minutes, and then someone would start crying and then everyone would start crying. And it wasn't just us on camera, it was the crew behind the camera, too. They were standing in this rubble and they saw it blow up the day before, or a couple days before. But that was our last day together. Walnut Grove's church was damaged, but that set didn't get blown up, nor did the set for the Ingalls' little house. Do you have any sense of why the house was spared? There was a conscious decision made not to blow up the church, because that's so symbolic of hatred, and that was a sacred building for the entire Walnut Grove community on the show and off the show. I think that it was a very wise decision not to blow that up. And the little house, Stan Ivar, who played John Carter, disassembled it piece by piece and has had it in storage forever. We've tried to give it to the Smithsonian, we've tried to give it to so many places, and nobody wants it. I'm not sure why. I think the house itself was sort of this symbol of hope for the Ingalls family and continued to stand as a sort of symbol of hope for everybody else. Though we are leaving, we can always rebuild, which is what the Ingalls family always did. Given that so much was destroyed, did you get to keep any props or other memorabilia from the show? I did. I kept a couple of things. I went through a great purge in my life a few years back and auctioned off all of my memorabilia with the exception of a couple of little things. I have my call sheet from the screen test, I have my very first script from the pilot with my dialogue underlined in crayon. And even better, my audition scenes for it are taped on a card and paper clipped to it from my grandfather Harry Crane's desk at NBC. I had one of Victor French's full costumes at one point, and I had the little red dress from the opening and closing credits, which my mom had framed for me somewhere around my 30th birthday, so like 30 years ago. Beyond that, it reached a point where I realized that the memories were enough to carry with me, but dragging all that stuff with me was becoming heavy.